Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio.
This is Home Show Radio live on Facebook and YouTube. Your questions, Tom's answers. Now here's Tom Tynan and Charlie Mosier.
And we begin Home Show Radio live here on Facebook and YouTube. We welcome everybody who's watching. And I just want to preface the whole thing by saying I'm Tom Tynan. I answer your home improvement questions. I've been doing it on the radio long before there was internet, cell phones. We used to call and dial to see what time it was on the regular phone. That's how long I've been doing it, for 34 years now. And what we'll do here is do the same thing, only we do it on camera, we do it on the internet, we do it on YouTube, now that it's all here, as well as on weekends on Sports Radio 610 in Houston, Texas, from 9 to noon on Saturdays, and usually 8 to 11 on Sundays, unless the Texans are playing early, a noon game, then we do it 7 to 9 like we're going to do this weekend. And my partner is Charlie Mosier. He's a person that puts this whole thing together, and he's the boss man. Hey, no. Charlie.
Yeah. There's only
boss
one boss
man.
when you're on camera, boss.
Yes.
So no,
All
I'm
right.
just I tell my friends that I'm the Ed McMahon of home improvements, and I just stand on the side and go hey-o and eat the Alpo.
Wait a minute. Johnny ate the Alpo.
Okay, what we're talking about,
And
remember
I'm not
Carson?
Johnny.
Right. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's
nobody
a
knows.
long time ago when late night television was funny. So anyway, you talk about things that are
And when I could stay up late enough to watch it.
when it was a big deal to stay up late and watch. When Johnny Carson's show was 90 minutes long. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's true.
So anyway, yeah. Tom has been doing this longer than there's been fax machines. In fact, when Tom started this, they still played music on AM radio. So that's how long he's been doing this.
Self-addressed stamped envelopes.
Sassy.
That's what
we used to call them. Sassy.
Yeah,
Send me a
that's
sassy.
right.
All right.
Okay,
And,
we're boring the heck out of everybody.
We
so
are,
need to
yeah.
do
Because I'm
something
watching,
else.
I'm watching the viewer count plummet over here too. So
Yeah,
let's get to what matters, and that is we have questions today. We're going to deal with from the Ask Tom section about ventilation, insulation, flooring, foundations, and bird nests. That's what's coming up today, and every week we bring on one of Tom's home show pros, and this week we have Vic Costa is joining us. Vic Costa, all our home show pros, by the way, can be found at homeshowradio.com. You just scroll down our homepage and you'll see all of them right there. You click on TDT, it'll take you down to his page, and there he is. And Vic, we'll look forward to talking to you in a couple minutes.
Terrific. Looking forward to it, guys.
All right, I didn't tell you
Hey,
to
Vic.
talk yet. Okay, so
So I said, boss man,
yeah, right.
El Jefe.
I'm only boss because I hold the keys to the show right here. All right, so let's get to some of the questions here. And by the way, if you'd like to send questions to us, feel free to use the comment section down below. We would love to get your questions in. That's why we do Ask Tom Live. So if you have questions and you just can't wait till the weekend, go ahead and send them to us today, and we'll help you out. That's why we're here. So let's get to the first one we have from the digital mailbag here at HomeShowRadio.com. Donald in Gulfgate. Tom, he asks, I have a metal building for a garage, and what would be the best way of insulating this bad boy?
Well, you can insulate a metal building all different kinds of ways, but metal buildings do come with insulation packages. And so the best thing to do, I think, is go to a metal building manufacturer like Mueller. Steel Buildings would be one of them here in Texas. And if you're in different states, there might be more local people around or people that broker these buildings. But you can get insulation packages which are, it's like a vinyl coated fiberglass, and it hooks up to the metal building with a wire. Now that's just to insulate the building. If you're making a house out of it, a barn dominium, something of that nature, you're putting an office inside a metal building, then you would actually build the wooden structure inside the building and then insulate it like you would do a regular house. And to me, that would be fiberglass, formaldehyde-free fiberglass insulation, and just go ahead and build the frame inside, leave a little bit of space between your structure and the wall, and that way you can air condition that particular enclosed area. But the building itself, I'd go to a metal building manufacturer and get the insulation package for a metal building.
Let's see, one I can think of would be Mueller. You find them.
I mentioned it once. Do you want me to keep mentioning it? We could have a flag come up, Mueller.
Well, I'm the sponsor pimp around here, so
Yeah, sponsor pimp.
that's
The
me.
boss man. That's what I said.
Yeah,
Hey, pays the bills.
I'm a
Pimp
lot
away.
of things. Boss ain't one of them. Just ask my wife.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm not going there.
Anyway, so yeah, that, and so Tom, that's an interesting thing you say, because you talk about how the thing about insulation though is that's not going to keep it cool for him.
No. When you insulate a metal building, the reason they have insulation packages is to keep them from sweating. Now, some parts of the country, it won't have a big issue as other parts. Here in the Houston area, because we have high humidities, it'll sweat inside and outside depending what time of year it is, just like a beer can or a Coke can or something outside when you're sitting by the pool or hanging out at the beach or at the country club, for that matter, like you, Charlie. So what you do is you want to put insulation right against the metal so the air doesn't touch it. That way it doesn't reach dew point and you don't get condensate forming and dripping down to the bottom. And that's why you insulate a metal building. It doesn't keep it cool. To cool anything in a hot climate, it's got to be air conditioned. It's not going to cool itself. If it was that easy, we wouldn't need the new Green Deal for that matter. It would all be just cooled by automatic. But we have to have mechanical systems.
Yeah.
What?
In fact,
No,
if
it's just
he
we have to have
insulates it,
mechanical systems.
yeah, if he insulates it, it'll actually stay warmer longer.
If it gets really hot during the day, like our garages down here in Houston could be 110, 120 degrees in a garage. And if it's insulated and it gets to that point where it's that hot, and then the heater goes away, which is the sun. Well, actually, it's not quite like that. But anyway, it gets cooler at night. It actually will hold the heat in like you would in a home up north, where you heat the home at night and during the day, for that matter, if it's really cold out, and you hold the heat in. So you don't want to hold something in, and that's what an air conditioning system is for. It actually pumps heat out. So it takes the heat from the inside and pumps it out. But if you don't have a barrier between you and the hot outside, then that thing's just going to run and run and run. So your insulation package is important to keep your air conditioning system running normally and not just obsessively.
Because it's something I know you talk about all the time, the difference between ventilation and cooling, and the purpose of them are not the same and all that. We'll talk about that more another time. Let's get to the next question though right now. Comes from Hattie in Clear Lake, and she says, I'm in the process of canning food, but the only place I have to store them is in my detached garage. I can't afford to air condition it. Would a wind turbine, here you go, here's the question, help bring the temperature down?
No, and it's not going to help for your canning. Your canning should be kept in a certain temperature range, and I know she probably knows exactly what that range is. That's why she's asking this question. But to cool it down, we're back to having air conditioning. So the best thing you could do is store it in your house somewhere, whether it's in a cabinet or on a shelf or something of that nature, if you have the room to do it. But if you put it in the garage in the Houston area in the summer, now, if you stored it through the winter time when it's 50, 60 degrees outside, I'm fine with that. That's not a problem. It's the summertime you have to bring it all in. And that's when it gets really hot outside, of course, and that's when it can spoil. So a turbine is not going to do it. You have to air condition if you're going to get into heat ranges of 85, 95, even up to 100 degrees in the afternoon. And in a garage, it'll get even hotter, like we said, the previous question. So the ventilation is not going to help that. Attic ventilation is meant to remove moisture, because hot air will rise, but you still have hot air in there. So it's still hot. It's just hotter air than the less hot air rises out and takes the water with it.
And we're authorities on the hot air. So
Well, think about this. If it's 0 degrees outside, you still have attic ventilation, because there is hotter air than less hot air, even if it's 40 below zero. You still have a difference. Something's going to rise out.
no one said there'd be math. Stop.
I didn't say that.
Well, you're
It's a
adding
concept.
and subtracting.
We're conceptualizing.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. I wonder, Tom, if I know a refrigerator would probably be too cold to store stuff for that, but I wonder if she couldn't get herself one of those wine fridges that only takes it down to like about in the 50s or 60s range, and store her canning in one of those.
I would say yes, but Charlie, when people can, they can a lot.
Yeah.
They're not holding 10 bottles of wine. They're holding 50 or 60 jars of fruit and things. So it better be a big one.
Only a piker would have a wine fridge that holds 10 bottles. Okay.
Okay, but they can't be cheap either. But yeah, you could do that. You know, wine cellar is acclimated to keep the humidities down. And then, of course, you have the chillers, too, for the wines. And you know more about this than I do.
Well,
that you drink colder than just, just a room temperature.
I think it's like 55 degrees or something. But the 13 degrees Celsius. Anyway, the... I've got some here.
38 degrees for Coors.
I got a couple waiting right over there for later. Anyway,
Either way, it turns my stomach.
All right, got one more before we bring Vic on here. So, Vic, stand by.
Yes.
All right, Broderick, who has been working on this fence for a while. If you follow the show, he's been sending us questions pretty regularly. But Broderick writes, he's building his wood fence. And he says, is there anything on the market that I can pre-treat the post with before putting him in the ground? I'll be using a treated post, but I would like to get more protection if I can.
Well, I guess the answer to that would be paint. You could paint the bottom and stick it in the ground. It's going to be a little more protection. That's why we paint the outside of houses, just to protect them from the sun and from the weather. That's why wood siding can last 100 years if it's maintained and painted properly. So if you wanted to paint it, fine. Is there something else besides that? I don't know of anything. And quite frankly, if you get a 0.4 pressure treated lumber, it's going to last you 30 years or so. And it doesn't rot the post in the ground. Where it rots is right where the ground meets it, where it gets wet and dry and wet and dry. It usually rots right at the ground level. So if you paint it, you got to paint it all the way up and keep it painted.
Why would you do such a thing?
Well, I didn't say I recommended it. He just asked me, is there something? And the answer is paint.
I guess I remember at some point seeing like tar or something put on the bottom of them before.
They used to use creosote, but they don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, the old houses down in Galveston, which is an island off the coast of Texas, for those of you who don't live in Texas, we have homes on stilts like you'll see all over the country on the coast. And they used to soak the old cedar posts in creosote and then put them in the ground. And it lasted a long time, but environmentally, it's probably going to have, it's going to draw people in hazmat suits to your house someday, so don't do that.
Well, don't they still do that with phone poles?
I don't know.
Treat
They
them with
might.
creosote? I know they
I'm
used
not
to.
in the phone business, but I know they used to.
No.
I have a feeling they probably use a different system now because of the environmental side of it. And it's a great question, and I've got some friends that actually set posts, so I'll ask them. I don't have the
okay.
answer right now, though.
All right.
It's nothing
Well,
that happens with your home. You know, nobody's setting a post like that. They're setting
See,
fence
the only thing
posts.
about posts is when I was a disc jockey, you used to try to talk up to a post. But that's a whole different thing.
Okay.
All right, let's bring on our guest here. Let me see, there's the button. All right, we're bringing on Vic Costa. In case you missed this at the beginning, this is where you'll find him. All our Home Show pros are arrayed for you at homeshowradio.com, and we'll click on his button right there on the home page, and it'll bring up his page here. We have this for every one of our Home Show pros. We've done the legwork to find the right people for you, and Vic is one of them. And did I mute you, Vic? Are you there?
I am here.
I see him.
Okay, yay. Okay, I thought I'd muted you or something. All right.
No,
Because as
no,
Tom
I'm still
told
here.
you,
I-
as Tom has
I'm
told
just
you
trying to
You
already.
can't. You
out.
can't mute Vic. I'm sorry. You can't mute Vic.
I was
Vic
trying
is gonna
figure
talk.
out, and I was trying to Google fax machine. What is a fax
machine. Yeah, we still have one out here, and we actually sell tickets if people want to come see it. So
No, wait
We
a
actually-
minute. I just got off the air with the IRS the other morning for some dumb reason, and they said fax it. So apparently the IRS still uses them.
yeah, go down to Kinko's. I mean, they're done.
Down to Kinko's.
Yeah, they're done printing ballots, so you can go ahead and use theirs. So
True.
just saying. All right, so Vic Costa, he's right there. He's
Yes.
with TDT, and they're in the I guess the what do you call it, forensic plumbing? That's where it all started for you guys, right?
That's correct, Charlie. We started out as a diagnostic forensic investigative company.
And then
And
you
now we do a lot of in-place pipe restoration.
there it is, and not only that, but you also do repiping, PEX
We do.
and copper, right?
Correct.
Why do
Yes,
people
we
choose
do.
one? I mean, do people copper? Is there? Why do you recommend one versus the other?
Well, we tend to recommend PEX because that's the most common pipe that folks are repiping with now. But some folks prefer copper, and there's nothing wrong with copper. It's excellent. It's just going to cost you a whole lot more because of not just the cost of the pipe itself, but the fittings, and then it's more labor intensive.
And I guess, Tom, is there a reason that you'd recommend copper over PEX, or is there a situation in particular where it makes more sense?
As far as I go, when I was building regularly at the end, we were using all PEX piping. A Uponor product was a product we used, and I liked it. It made the plumbing quiet. There was no joints in the wall. With copper, which I have in my own house, you have a lot of joints. Now, Vic goes into repiping sometimes, and Vic, you must come across where when you're sweating those joints in a wall, you could have a potential little charred area of wood. So you've got to be very careful with the torch. That would be a problem sometimes.
Do you still use a torch, Vic, or are you crimping?
No, we went to either Shark Bites or Pro Press fittings because what Tom mentioned
that's good to know.
has actually happened where we've read about just a little combustion occurring.
Okay.
That's why they don't hot tar roofs anymore. The roofers would be going home and they'd get a call, hey, the fire department's on the way to the house. So there was some problems with those things. But Vic, I'm glad you mentioned Shark Bite. I have never used one because I'm not a plumber. But I get a lot of calls from do-it-yourselfers, and I really want to hit on this while I have you here. They always say, Tom, how is the Shark Bite fittings? I've never used one, but they recommended it. Do they work? And I always said I haven't heard anything bad about them, but I've never used one. So you guys use them and have good results with them. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yes, Tom, we do. They're more expensive than your Pro Press fitting. They're easier to use, and it's kind of like a push-pull type fitting, right? It's got like little teeth on it. So once it's pressed onto the pipe, pushed into the pipe, it grabs, and it makes a perfect seal. They're excellent, but again, cost-wise, it costs more. Pro Press fittings don't cost as much, but they require special tools. So that's kind of where, depending on who's doing the repipe, most plumbers will, quite frankly, use the Pro Press fittings because they've already made the investment in the Pro Press tool itself. And so from a cost standpoint, it's going to be less for the client. But then there's occasional times where you're limited on the space. So that's where a Shark Bite is an excellent fitting to use in situations like that.
So you can use it for copper. You can't use it for galvanized, can you?
No, not for galvanized.
But copper, and do they use them for PEX also?
There are some, yes, absolutely. There are some fittings that are designed to be used with PEX piping.
That's a Shark Bite.
Correct.
Thank you. No, now I got all my answers ready for next week's show. No
Good
doubt.
night, everybody.
I get one.
We're done.
No, Charlie, go ahead. Go.
No, yeah. Yes, sir. All right, Vic, as Tom has alluded to, we have some questions that for you that came from our Ask Tom section. I want to run by you and see if you can help us out with these.
I plead the fifth. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, right. Sorry, Senator, I don't honestly recall. Yeah, exactly. All right, first question comes from Dale. He's over in South Houston, and he says, we're looking at relining our existing pipes in our 1970 home. He said, my wife is concerned about any health issues that can be exposed to with the epoxy product used to reline the product. What are your, he asks Tom, what are your thoughts? But Vic, I guess you know the facts about how this stuff stacks up.
Yes, and that's actually a common question that we get asked a lot about because there's all different types of epoxy resins, and some of them are not designed for potable water use. And so you don't want to use one of those epoxies. The epoxy that we use, Epipe, is a tested and certified epoxy resin. It's tested under NSF Standard 61, which is the same testing and certification that any component, plumbing component that's used in a potable water system must go through. So it's totally safe, no health risk associated with it at all, and it's just a great product. So no concerns with any health-related issues.
I've had that question before, and my comment on that, Vic, is I know it doesn't have any extra health-related issues, but I'm always recommending that people get a water filter before they drink water out of their tap. I don't care what kind of pipe it comes through. That's just the way it is. Because not from what's in your house, but where it comes from, down line underneath the streets and in the ground and all that stuff. So if anybody's asked me, is it a health issue? You shouldn't have to worry about it if you have a good filter system on your house as far as it goes when it comes to drinking and cooking with.
No, and that's a great point, Tom, because we all know what goes into our drinking water. You know, you got pharmaceuticals and all kinds of little critters and things of that nature. So a filtration system is excellent. And in fact, a lot of our customers, after we do the pipe restoration, which means we clean out their pipes completely, in many cases, they'll do a whole house filtration system. And now they're really getting the best of both worlds in the sense that they're absolutely cleaning that water completely. And once it's clean, it's no longer going through any nasty pipes or anything like that. But a point of use filter is just excellent as well.
When you do these jobs, Vic, I know you work on all kinds of scales of projects, and we got a video I want to play right here about one of your larger projects. One of your larger residential ones anyway. You want to set this up and kind of tell the story about it?
Sure. Boy, I was sweating there for a while. You see, you got a video. I'm like, wait a minute, take that one, okay? So, no,
that's right. We've been following you. We've been our investigative unit's been following you all week, Vic, and there are things we want to know.
Now, the video that I believe you're going to show is a multifamily high-rise building that we did some time ago. And the issue there was a combination of, it was a building that was built in the 60s with galvanized steel pipe, and they were starting to really see some issues really across the entire building, everything from pinhole leaks to low water flow to discolored water. And I finally got to the point where, they said we need to do something. And they looked at different options, and they found us, and we were able to totally rehabilitate that plumbing system.
This was a big deal when you guys did this job. I remember it, and and if for everybody watching, if you're thinking about what would take to do in your house, consider doing it in a house this big.
There was some problems because the building is old, and you have to remember that.
This retirement home is about half the age of its average resident.
The building has held up very well considering the amount of time that's passed.
But the pipes are aging prematurely.
Dirty water coming in.
It would be rusty. It would be, brownish.
And the water flow?
It was rather slow.
If you guessed old galvanized pipes, you guessed right.
Corrosion, and we had to get the plumbers to come out to fix and patch and repair pipes.
The beauty about galvanized pipe, the integrity of the galvanized pipe is excellent.
In-place pipe restoration means no holes in the walls.
So it's just a matter of cleaning out the pipes, removing some of that internal corrosion.
But shutting the water off would force the residents to relocate.
You have what we call risers from the first floor all the way up to the 10th floor.
The plan, in-place pipe restoration that doesn't displace the renters.
It is a major savings in avoiding inconvenience to the residents.
We're able to take a set of risers, or in this case, a set of apartments, and totally rehabilitate that piping without disturbing the rest of the apartments.
This is what the bathroom sink riser being repiped looks like. Sandblasted and epoxy coated with only having to remove the valves. The other half of the apartment still has running water.
I think it would be very difficult for them to have to transition out of their homes.
Restoration combines the best of the old and the new.
It's like having a plastic pipe inside your metallic pipe.
Since we've had all this work done, it's just been clear water. It's been good water.
I'm happy because I have a lot of water in the kitchen now.
Prolonging the retirement age of galvanized pipes by decades.
That's what makes TDT a certified Home Show Pro. For HomeShowRadio.com, I'm Tom Tynan.
Yeah, I wanted to let that linger a minute because you see it said 2018 on there. And I don't know if we can do a close-up on Tom here. Let's see if we can zoom in on Tom and see.
What do you mean zoom in on Tom?
Do you see anything different here on Tom? Just up here on the top there. You know what I'm saying?
I got a haircut.
Fair enough. All right, so there you go.
I didn't lose that much from 2018. Now, I can get you a picture from 1976 if you'd like. But not right now.
Well, I got one of those pictures. All right. So we got another question. Yeah, the one on the pickup truck. All right. We'll show that one next week. Yeah, come back next week. We'll show you that picture. All right.
That was a good one. That was a cover shot for a magazine.
Yeah, I've got old pictures like that too. I've got old pictures of me like that. I taped them to my refrigerator as a reminder.
Nice. Okay.
All right, let's go to the next one for you, Vic. This comes from Joe in Willowbrook. He says, we're having problems with galvanized pipes in our 42-year-old home. I'm told the two options are replacing the pipes with PEX or cleaning them and relining them with, obviously, your Epipe. I guess the question that comes down to it, Vic, is how do these compare on price? Sooner or later, somebody's going to ask you that question.
Oh yeah, that we cover that all the time because folks want to know, what's the cost difference and all. Once they find out that they have two options, the PEX piping is great. The only issue is that unfortunately you have to make holes in the wall, and in some cases possibly the ceiling if you have the pipes running below the subfloor. So that means that there's quite a bit of damage to the walls and possibly ceilings on the two-story home. So that means that the repipe is going to cost you X amount of dollars plus, and the plus is all the cosmetic work that's going to have to be done after the repipe is finished. Conversely, with the Epipe restoration method, there isn't any wall holes that we need to make or ceiling because we do everything with the pipe stub out of the wall. So you're going to save a substantial amount of money by choosing the Epipe option.
I know a lot of people that have done both, and they're sold a bill of goods sometimes on the repiping and saying, oh yeah, we fixed the sheetrock, but the paint never matches, and they end up having to repaint all their rooms and things. Do you come across that, Vic, where you've seen people who have been kind of promised a bill of goods that isn't quite what it turns out to be?
Unfortunately, yes. We'll come across, and a lot of it is really with the when somebody says, well, we include the patching and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, a lot of folks don't quite understand when somebody says patching. In their mind, they're thinking, hey, the wall's going to look just the way it did before. And that's not the case. So it's not just the patching that has to be done, but then the painting. And as you mentioned, Tom, what happens almost invariably is that even though the paint can be matched, the fact that you've got paint on the wall that's, let's say, 10 years old versus fresh new paint on the other wall, it's not going to match, and the room's not going to look good. So now the homeowner's saying, you know what, let's just paint the entire room because it's going to look horrible if we don't. And that's where that cost starts to escalate. And so those are things that we always encourage folks to consider the total cost of the project. And that way they know what their final cost is going to be.
In the end, though, it really is a matter of choice. Do I want to realign or do I want to? And the good thing is you offer both.
That's correct. And I think that's what a lot of folks appreciate about us is that we're not trying to just say, look, this is the only way you can do it. We say, here's two options for you to consider. And based on your particular needs or what you have planned, because, for example, sometimes we have folks that are doing a major renovation in their home. So that means they're going to be opening up walls and that type of thing. So in that case, guess what? A PEX repipe is probably fine because you've already incurred the cost of the drywall and painting in the other part of the project. So in situations like that, makes perfect sense, and so we're able to offer them that option as well.
All right, let's get to your last question here for you, Vic. Number 3. Question number 3. My house was built in 1976. I had one leak over a bathroom light fixture, and the plumber said I should think about repiping. He says, I'm reading about PEX, and I saw there's a 25-year guarantee, while copper has a 50-year guarantee. So why would he prefer PEX over copper?
Well, PEX is going to be less expensive overall. It's easier. There's less labor involved because, again, there aren't any fittings that you have to deal with when you go from a horizontal to a vertical transition, right? PEX is flexible enough, especially the Uponor, that it's going to bend some, and so you eliminate that particular fitting there. The fact that you don't have to make is, for example, if you repipe a home with copper, you're basically having to trench the wall from ceiling to the floor, because copper pipe is obviously rigid. Where with PEX, you can usually get by with making maybe 3 access points, top, middle, and bottom. And so again, that's going to save folks money over having to replace an entire sheet of sheetrock, for example. It's less labor intensive, costs less fittings, etc. So that's why I think they would want to consider PEX. But again, we've had customers that don't want anything but copper. So it's just, again, preference.
Yeah, and Vic, isn't it true that when you get into these warranties on the pipe, it doesn't cover the joints? And that's usually where you end up having a problem. So less joints in many cases, as far as I'm concerned, is better. But it doesn't really cover just the pipe. And even galvanized lasts 50 years before, or even 40 years, some of it less depending where it came from. But it still lasted a long time. So I don't know if a warranty on pipe is all that important as far as it telling you a story that's really meaningful to the homeowner.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because, like you said, Tom, I mean, some of these pipes, even the galvanized pipe, the old Pittsburgh galvanized pipes, those pipes are, in some cases 60 years old, and they're still flowing well. Then you have the imported pipe that's maybe 30, 40 years old, having problems like this last gentleman that just had the question. The home was built in 1976. That's obviously the imported galvanized steel pipe. They had one pinhole leak. So there again, the question is, well, do I need to repipe my entire house at this point in time, or do I wait for that second pinhole leak? So again, these are all things that folks just need to consider, and in some cases, people are being proactive because even a one pinhole leak can cause substantial damage, and so typically, once you've experienced a pinhole leak, you don't want to experience that second one. So that may be the case in this situation.
Yeah, just pray that we don't need it.
Yeah, I think that goes with any kind of tragedy in your house, whether it's a Harvey flood or a pinhole leak or a toilet overflowing or I mean, you never want to go through that stuff. That's why we have insurance.
I was working on an ad for a plumber that I work with in Seattle, and the water pressure, the average water pressure is 50 pounds per square inch out there, and one pipe is going to put like 2,500 to 3,000 gallons of water into your house if it breaks a day, and it's scary stuff when you think about it, but that's why TDT
you have
exists.
Insurance.
That's it.
Yes,
that's why you have insurance. Yeah,
I had a house burned down. That's why I had insurance. It's just the way it is.
I have kids. That's why I have insurance. So
that's true too.
All right. Well, Vic, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And
absolutely, got my pleasure.
Before you go, let's show them one more time where they can find you over at HomeShowRadio.com. Right there with all our other Home Show pros on the homepage. You scroll down and you'll see them right there. Let me click on that. Bing, and it'll open up your page here sooner or later. There it is. By the way, if you want to see that or any of the other videos that we've done with Vic, you can find them all right there at HomeShowRadio.com under the Ask Tom, right there on the homepage, and go to them.
And Charlie, if anyone out there has any additional questions or they want to find out a little bit more about either Epipe or a PEX repipe, by all means, have them call me. Be happy to speak with them.
Well, I will, but from your lips to their ears, buddy.
Hey, I'll
Thank
even
you,
mention
guys.
it on the radio this weekend.
All right.
Mind blown.
Okay. All right.
Hey, we might be onto something. Vic, thanks a lot for being with us. Thanks for being with us today, buddy.
Thank
All
you,
right.
guys. We'll see you.
See you, Vic.
So
Bye.
there goes Vic, and I guess that leaves it to us. And we've got no questions that came in today because everybody's too busy wondering what they're going to do with all that food they bought for Thanksgiving. Since
Yeah,
Dora says we're not supposed to have them over. So
Okay, that's right. And quite frankly, I'm good with that. This is like the best Thanksgiving ever because I don't want anybody at my house. So I'm really good with that. Anyway, that's too much work. I got to do all the dishes. I've had enough of that. I'm in a year off.
Well, before we start landing the plane, let me just say one more thing. If you want to send us your questions, you can just go ahead to our homepage. You may have seen this earlier. Go ahead and click on the Ask Tom button. You come here, and there's a little form on there. You click on it, and you can fill it out and send it in. And you'll notice here, hang on, wait for it to load. Down at the bottom, you can see that you can send us a picture. That helps illustrate. But if that's not enough for you, you can also record a video and send that to us. We love when we get those, and we put a lot of work into it. So feel free to send it in. Maybe get the family around, and you're going to have people around the house, and things are going to break this weekend, so you can have us help you out. Go and send questions. That's what Tom exists for. He lives for it, and he'll be around on the radio this weekend.
That's it. So just remember, everybody watch or listen, I should say, Saturdays 11 to noon, and of course, 9 to noon, excuse me. And Sundays, 8 to 11, except this Sunday we're going to be on 7 to 9 because the Texans play a noon game.
Yeah, we're hoping that, pennant fever and all that. Anyway, not with the Texans, but anyway, no, but
Okay.
Tom be around. But now Tom will be live this weekend. So, if you have questions, he'll be here. A lot of other shows are going to be recorded. But Tom will be live this weekend to help you out on the radio.
You bet.
And we're going to run, by the way, what we call a roundtable show, which we have the best of each of the 6 garden pros that are part of Home Show Garden Pros, which airs every Saturday from 7 to 9. That'll be on before Tom this weekend. And
Okay.
That's our deal.
That's it.
So we'll be back. We will not be back next Thursday. Hang on. We're not be here next Thursday because we'll all be eating pie and turkey and all that. But we will be back the following Thursday, and we'll look forward to seeing you for another Ask Tom Live.
That's it.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show